Here we go. Everything is finally ready to kick off. Bleed's debut going up against Grand Team. Vince, we're in position for it.
Yes, the wait is over, and now the action has begun. Bleed on the T side, already fiving, getting up close on the apps, but I thought they may be getting a bit more aggressive there, Jacky, but they're actually holding fire, maybe anticipating some madness, some shenanigans from the CTs. It's hard, really, to think about what these kind of teams are going to do, right? These mixed teams you know nothing about. Are they going to be, just all guns blazing, do the most random of things? I think you have to tread lightly if you Bleed, for all the reasons we mentioned before about it being MR12, getting a slow start, etc. But nothing slow about that. Fabian has removed the head of Musa, but he does get put down from the Julies in the process.
It's a nice opener. And I do subscribe to your theory. It's far better to play a little bit slower, kind of sound out how the team's going to play, and then instigate the fight. Here we see a bit of a boost round towards CT. Some dualies in play as well. Quite an awful lot of them, in fact. But it is Cirque and Launks that open things up, bringing the pain towards the B-bomb site and derailing the setup from Grand Team, leaving us in a 3 versus 2 post-plant.
And Flaro is very low as well, however. So Pro 100 Monkeys, fantastic name, is probably the man for the job. Has already picked up the one with those Julies. The Hampus up close dispatches the 2 remaining CTs and gets Bleed across the finish line for the first time in these open qualifiers.
First round in the bag. Always helps, Vince. Always helps, man. The difference of momentum from being able to pick up your opening round, especially Inferno as well in the current meta, right? Some pros are a bit iffy about how Inferno's playing these days. Feels a bit different, a bit like chalk and cheese for who still enjoys it and who absolutely hates it. You hate to see this, though. They've gone for the double Zeus, Vince. Straight in, looking for a little bit of electronic trauma, potentially.
Yeah, these are the kind of shenanigans that you expect in the first couple of rounds, perhaps, of the open qualifiers. I mean, I'm not necessarily completely against the Zeus. The problem is for Merc Knight, it could put him in a bit of an awkward position come the next round for a purchase. Maybe lacking a couple of grenades here or there can make a difference, especially on a bottleneck-centric map like Inferno. The CTs really need as many incendiaries and smokes as possible. But if he does get a kill, then all is forgiven. However, it's not looking good as Bleed once again are taking their sweet time positioning Cypher up front with the 1 Mac-10. He's going to be the first to run and gun it down. And Kagetzi's not looking like he's going to survive much longer. And it is the UK-based player that springs in for first blood in the round. And it's going to be a lot more behind that, Jacky. This is going to be a clean sweep.
Ooh, opportunity barely missed. Could have been a bit of a shocker. Instead, it's a near miss for him as Pro 100 goes down. And it seems like the round will be following suit as Bleed lay claim to another one. Cypher still looking crisp as well, up to his old tricks, right? He is that very aggressive, explosive entry fragger. I did like the setup at least. It bodes well from how Bleed are playing it. Sometimes you see teams coming into these sorts of qualifiers where they're a bit overconfident, Vince. They're not running the basic defaults. They're not using the utility as cleanly as you'd like. At least here, it all seems pretty drilled, right? The defaults have been nice. They're playing with their time. They're playing with a range advantage. It was a nice way to open up towards top brackets as well with the double flash. You send Cypher in. Sure, he had the bomb on his back, but the man is explosive. So I guess it all smooths over and they take a second round. Straight in for attack as well. I do wonder if this is just them resolving maybe a small issue, the nature of the old online qualifiers straight in.
Yeah, just get on the same page. Make sure they don't miss any potential slips and slides and play into Grand Team stacks. And the thing is, well, like Kassad is he's a bit of a taskmaster, you know. He's the kind of coach that you expect is going to be very strict with Bleed, but also have good protocols put into position. We've already seen these previous 2 rounds. They're not scared to just sit back and wait. They're not scared to be reactive rather than proactive on these T rounds, which makes a lot of sense, all things considered. And as for this round, like, playing this passive as the T side is very, very unusual. Oh, that's why Lonks may have some issues. Okay, I was like thinking, why are they sitting back so far, Jacky? Well, Lonks has had a DC, hasn't he?
Mate, there was a bit in the back of my mind where I was like, yeah, no, you know what? Maybe this is like a really elaborate existence pause, right? Where obviously Big Kev back in the day used to just use like the first 40 to 30 seconds of a round to just have a bit of a chin wag, figure out what you want to do, and see if the CTs waste some util. But no, it does just seem like Lonks has DC'd. I suppose technically, in terms of rule set wise, that was before first contact. There was no damage done. There was no aggression that had come out from either side in terms of damage into the round, so might be able to get a replay on that one once the issue's fixed. But does explain why we had that pause now a little bit more.
Yeah, it's very true. And considering that none of the Ts are pushing forward and the CTs are basically just chilling as well, I think that that match medic is going to be coming in hopefully very shortly indeed. So, a bit of a false start here. We have got a couple rounds at least, Jacky, under our belt, but not quite the start we were hoping for. Hopefully things are going to smooth over a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick look as well in terms of the bracket. Just for anyone else that's wondering, whilst we have a little bit of a delay on this one, we'll get Longs back in, I'd imagine, reset the round. The admins will work their little magic, get rid of whatever tech gremlins were like pulling out the cables. You had Gizmo, someone's probably fed him after midnight, Vince, and he's just gone absolutely haywire. But in terms of the bracket, for the round of 1024, we've got Heroic versus Yuka Esports. That's one of the games that's going on. Namiga taking on WC Kunri. There's also Parry Vision versus Illusion, Secret, and then, of course, Bleed in this matchup versus Grand Team. So 5 fairly big names that all have to play in that opening first round. Because, of course, this time around with the seeding, I believe everything is just done off of the new Valve rankings for 2024. That's how the games are seeded. If you're on that ranking sheet, you've got a seed attributed. Outside of that, I believe it's just sort of random based on the generation of the bracket. So those are the 5 teams that get a little bit unlucky. And those are some big orgs, bud. You know, that's a lot of name value. You've got instantly in a position where you've got to play your first game the whole way through.
Yeah, precisely. And go through some of these teething issues, you know, with the DCing and the stress that comes alongside that, running around. If you have a buy in that first round, I mean, you're just chilling, you're sat in the back of your seat, just kind of relaxing, maybe getting some aim practice in. The stress and the pressure is well and truly off. Whereas for teams like Bleed, like they still got to go through, like you said. And just going through some of those rosters, by the way, because there's been tons and tons of changes, as obviously we're waiting for the reconnect to come in and things to get back into to good fashion. Heroic now, Nerds, Tessis, Nikodos, Shush, and Kiksan. Pretty interesting team, Jacky. Just to pick your brain a little bit, what's your first instinct and reaction about this Heroic lineup now? I mean, do you think this is a team that can maybe press towards the top 10 eventually, or do you think there's maybe a bit of a ceiling ahead of them on that one?
I think it's going to be hard. I think it's a hard roster to really, you know, absolutely shoot for the stars with, but you've got to give it your best shot, right? I think Kiksan, at least in terms of talent, really impressed me whenever I've seen him play. I reckon he's one of those that could do a lot for the team in the future if he's able to sort of keep up to the pace that we had seen from him recent months. I think there's a lot of room there for him to grow. And also, Heroic do seem like the sort of org that, especially at the minute, right, they put a lot of stock into not only building the team, but sort of the brand value around those players as well, and are looking to kind of add that as the extra element, which in the current landscape of CS, I think that's sort of an under-evaluated part of it. It's not enough to just be a player anymore, right? You kind of do have to have the back end as well. You've got to have your own socials. You've got to have a bit more to it. So Heroic there in terms of development of some of those players, I think that could do a lot for them. So there's room, Vince. I think it's just going to be hard for them to instantly come out the gate swinging, more so to when you look at some of the other sort of bigger teams we've seen built off the back of it, right? Even an interesting one there for me with the Heroic changeover was I kind of thought maybe there's a timeline where they keep Dupree when they brought him on the trial contract for a couple of months, right, to help him out with the end of the year after losing Cadian. Instead, he makes his way to Preezy. So that was quite interesting to see that, you know, maybe they could have had Dupree, obviously, you know, someone that historically unbelievable legacy throughout CSGO. Yeah, sure, he's probably towards the tail end of his career now going into CS2, but that's still a lot of value you would have got from him. So that's more one of the surprising ones that they let him go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think even though I think he's like 30, maybe even 31, which, you know, CS-wise is a lot of people would say is over the hill. He still has so much to offer. a team, even just being part of the org, even if he's not in the active player, he can dip into sort of being a streamer for the team. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the kind of player that ends up being a coach further down the line, but I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think Heroic are a team definitely to watch out for. I think Nertz is definitely a nice pickup for that squad, and I'm very curious to see what he's actually going to be able to accomplish with them. The other team I wanted to touch on a little bit as well is Parry Vision, Jerry's team. It's got Kicker. You've got Patsy in there. Art Frost, I think, is also in that roster. This is a team that I kind of expect to go pretty far, to be honest, because Jerry's one of those real grinder kind of players. It's been around for so long. Obviously, Fours was his bastion, his home for the longest of time. I think when you look at some of the players he has alongside him, that's a potentially very interesting roster.
Oh, absolutely, bud. I completely agree with you on that one. I think they're really actually quite exciting in terms of what they built with that and how far they can go. It's interesting, man, just how much over the holiday period, like the entire landscape of CS did implode in terms of rosters, right? Like, obviously, well, for as good as the game's been going from back in 2013, every year post-major, we always do have those roster manias. But I feel like this has been the biggest one by far that's lived up to that title. You have had, you know, kind of like Triple H coming in out of nowhere. Hell, even Stone Cold's make a reappearance, Vince, with just how much legacy and how many big names we've seen chopping and changing. And I think the craziest bit about it is those big name players, right? When you look at sort of players like Cadian on Heroic, that's the brand value. He's always been there. It felt like he kind of was the shield for Heroic in terms of deflecting. Like, if anyone's going to hate on this team, I'll take it. If anyone's going to celebrate this team, I'll take it. Now going over to Liquid, that's a huge one. I know it's a little bit before the roster mania, but also when you see that departure of Elige, leaving Liquid, moving on to Complexity, that's another one where it feels like, wow, the landscape itself going into CS2 took a lot of shakeups and sort of key name staples that I didn't expect leaving anytime soon or moving to different orgs. I think we're in probably one of the more interesting timelines for pro Counter-Strike than we've been in for a while. It feels like the scene is fully rebooted.
100%. I can imagine someone that maybe kind of lost their way with CS maybe 6 months ago or something and came back and was like, oh, I'm interested now. CS2's released. There's a major around the corner. Is going to be scratching their heads wondering what the hell is going on with some of these rosters. Like you said, Cadian was Heroic, if we're being completely honest. Like, I think if you mention Heroic, Cadian is the first name that comes to your mind, not just because of him being the IGL and the AWP, but also his personality, also for how long he was under contract with the Heroic org as well. So that was a huge head scratcher for me. Elige very much the same, as you already touched on. So yeah, I think that we're in a very interesting position in CS overall, and that's one of the main reasons why these qualifiers are so intriguing. Like the RMR that's going to be coming up next month is such a tantalizing prospect because there's so many questions that we still need the answer to, and we're not even sure like what formation we're going to see from these teams. Not every team's going to be successful. That's just not the way it's going to work. A lot of these teams are going to crash and burn, and I think it's a bit of a coin flip between a few of them, which one it's going to be. Obviously, we're filling time, by the way, guys, if you just joined. Unfortunately, I think it's Lonks had some issues. He disconnected, hasn't reconnected just yet. I'd imagine the admins are super busy with tons and tons of games going on simultaneously. So it seems like we're in some weird tech issue purgatory right now, Jacky, and we're just crossing our fingers and hoping to be saved.
I can only imagine I'm not sure if there is a function for them to be able to call a tech timeout or not, because it seems like obviously they're just kind of letting it run, but you can see most players aren't in it. It's not a real game right now, just from the way the body language in game is going. It looks like Lunks was able to reconnect, but of course you still need to get someone to run the match medic and reset the round. So I guess at this point we'll play air to the caution, see where we end up. I can only imagine we'll get a bit of a rerun on this one once things have smoothed over. It doesn't feel like this is actually a game of CS that's happening right here. More akin to a little warm-up, a little old-school deathmatch warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're Grand Team as well, you just like you manage to get a kill on one of these plays, take a screenshot. You know, it's a lasting memory for the rest of your CS career.
I would tell you a good one as well, Vince, just to kind of set the stage for some of the potential shenanigans we could see closer and closer towards the RMR as the days tick on by. Obviously, Cypher, for me, had one of the more memorable major moments in recent history, I would say, turning up to his debut game at the RMR, Vince. He walked out with a Tesco's bag full of all his peripherals. And it was all on stream. Everything was on stream. You saw him getting his gear out, his mouse, his keyboard, his headset, all just in a Tesco's bag. He had brought to the event all the way to Denmark. And it absolutely blew up, caused ruckus in the UK scene. A lot of excitement. He actually went on to sign it and give it away to someone that wanted it, which is, I feel, is actually kind of one of those more interesting, like fun UK CS storylines. The time Cypher brought the Tesco bag to the major.
It is the most English thing, isn't it? Like, oh, hey, looks
hey,
like
there we go.
Working. Brilliant.
God damn. Right. Well, Tesco stocks on the rise, and it looks like we can get back into it. Everything's coming up Cypher.
He definitely endeared himself to a lot of people after that tournament as well. Like a lot of people became his a very big fan of his. So definitely interested to see what's gonna come up. 2-0 was the score when Lonks DC'd at the start of the round. We were curious as to why they were sat back for so long, and then our answers came through. Cypher did have the MAC-10. He picked up a kill in that second round, and 3 to the charm. There we go. So hopefully this is going to be the last one, and then we can get underway again. Fingers crossed. It seems that's going to be the case here, Jacky. We're going live.
Nice. All right, we're back into it. There we go. The old talk about Cypher, talk about UK CS, it brought us right back around. Just like the Brits, Vince. Just keep calm and carry on. Everything's fixed now. Right then, 2 rounds in the bag for Bleed, the Tesco's bag, that is. But Grand Team do have a buy to work with. So let's see where this is going to go. Obviously, you've had a few rounds of kind of just running at each other as well, where the game hasn't really been live. So are Bleed going to fall instantly back into playing that slower style of CS? Let's see.
Some very nice counter nades. Tossing Molly up onto the cart has forced the CTs away and given a bit more mid-control. But Bleed still being patient, still being passive, which I'm completely on board with. You know, we were just touching on this before. When you're against a complete unknown quantity, there is no way they've had a chance to counter-strat Grand Team. They're not going to know these plays. They're not going to have any idea about what they have up their sleeve. It's best to just play cautious, sit back a little bit, see if they expose their grenades. And to be honest, for the most part, they have. They've got an incendiary, 2 smokes, a HE, and a flash. There's a minute left on the clock. So Bleed can just take their sweet time.
I like this little bit of prodding that's going on as well. You're trying to see what the setup is towards brackets. They just walk up as well. Everyone was pretty confident at that fact. So they've got a bit of info from this. You've had the read of how GAT are playing towards mid brackets here. Reset. Refocus, round towards top banana. Utilities there, an awful lot of it around the belts. You've got 4 sets of smokes to work with, the 3 Molotovs, and a ton of flashbangs to make a blinding entrance on the play. It's Flaro, really, that has to make a bit of a hero maneuver. Only the MP9, though, Vince, so can it be clean?
Flash is up and over. HE gets tossed in, but that's actually to the detriment of the T. They're trying to blow away the smoke. Counter flash landed in, but Faven has gone in with a Molotov. And now that leaves it down to just Pro 100 Monkeys, who's going to try his best to spray through the smoke. He does deny the bomb plant. Oh, no, he doesn't, pardon me, actually. It did fully go down from Cypher's hands, who dips across to the back of the site. And with a flank in from Lonks, this round is a done deal. The best case is 2 saved M4s. And Bleed showing their superiority when it comes to set plays, when it comes to patience, and just raw brute force. 3-0 going to be the score. The only question left to ask, Jacky, can they hold on to these M4s?
It's a big question as well. CT side economy in CS2, you've got to hold them where you can. You don't want to be folding these M4s away like an origami game gone wrong, because they will be waiting for the push, at least one, as they trade back, but it's worse for wear, with Hampus picking up the frag with the AK and Faven slutting down the last man. So he's all and gone. And in reality, at this point, Bleed, you're starting to get into a bit of an absolute tear with things. You've got firepower to play with. You've got no money in the bank for GAT either. So you're just running away with the course of things here. You know, it's just 3 rounds up, but MR12, man, the difference of having those opening rounds and keeping that momentum just makes all the difference. It's going to be very hard for Grand Team to find their footing over the course of this one now, as it just feels like they're a bit out of water with this slow style. Again, Pro 100 playing into the early default Molotov we've seen towards top car. Just peeks into it, loses a fair amount of his HP, bringing him down to 48. He's forced to back off. Brackets controls just crumbling as well, Vince. They fleshed this out into the prior round. They kind of tested the waters of going up brackets. So now they know they can just walk on in, and they've gotten away with it scot-free here.
I think on to Faven, but the M4 will reign supreme. Cypher. Ooh, does get one dink round the corner. Nice shot from Flaro, but it feels like a consolation kill at best. Considering this is going to be a quickfire 4-0, Flaro unlikely to hold on to this AK, and their nade just splatters him against the walls. Another one behind that. 2 casualties, but Bleed take the 4-0. It was an eco, so another buy will be coming up, but you can feel a bit of jitters and a bit of nerves coming in from Grand Team with how slow Bleed are playing this. They're getting a bit overzealous with some peaks. They're not quite watching each other's backs as well. We saw a couple of moments there where crossfires were distinctly lacking. So a quick fire 4-0 for the favorites of this game.
Running away with things as it goes right now. Where do we go from here then? Early utility thrown out towards top banana to instigate this one. And this has been working pretty well for them. Just being able to command that respect towards top banana, bully the CT side setup. Maybe the one change could be the fact that they are donning the AWP. Obviously, Pro 100 Monkeys, he's been going for the wide swing time and time again towards top banana. This time around, they've opted for a more passive play. Use the utility, smoke down, molly bottom banana, play further back towards the top end, and rotate that AWP all the way around towards the A site. That's where he's going to be stationed. We'll see what he can find with this one over the course of the 5th round.
My VLC has crashed, I think.
Mine's also gone right now. Yeah, I'm on a freeze frame of Fathom apps. It's kind of like a guessing game of what happens next.
I say I've got a different picture. I got Cypher in banana chilling. So
we'll have a look. We'll get the tech wizards to see what's going on. Maybe we've lost Bastion. He might have gone down.
F's in chat for Bastion, guys.
R.I.P. Bastion. A true legend. But we've lost Jordan. Oh, there we go. We've lost big man producer Jordan. Has he returned? There we go. Okay.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
We've gone in, we've dragged Jordan back from the Nether Realm, and we've saved him. All the demons have been slain, and we are back into the gameplay, Vince. Obviously, at this point, Bleed up 6 rounds on the trot. Running away with it, trailblazing, all the classic catchphrases on their T side, but this is one they might just let slip. Cirque's down to 51 HP, Launx is still top of the board, 100 to play with, but they've got to bypass Flaro's defense on the back of the bomb site.
And Flaro has looked like one of the better players on the CTs, but as I say that, his head ripped away from Launx on the drive-by. Jacky now with that AWP is going to try and get up close. But the smoke's in his eyes, gives his position away. Maybe trying to draw some fire away for his teammate, but User's nowhere close here. He's still on the CT side. That allows him to replenish the smoke that's been tossed down. A lot of damage through the smoke. Unconfirmed. But Jacky now throws in his Molotov. That's going to force Turk out into the open, who will burn alive. They know where Lonks is. Comes down to the 1v1. Both players aware of each other's position, but the flick from the AWP is not fast enough, and Lonks will punish. 7-0, and I completely agree. It felt like if they were going to win a round, it had to be that one.
Man, you got to pick those up, Vince. It's the classic saying, you've got to win those. And that's such a shame as well, right? Goes down to the 1v1 in the situation where one sick flick could be the difference of at least getting a bit of momentum. This was never going to be a walk in the park. This was never going to be an easy game, right? This is a Bleed roster that's had a lot of money put into it, a lot of thought process behind the organization, behind Kassad, in trying to build a team that can contend to potentially make it to the major. So going into it in an open qualifier environment, best you might do is a few rounds here and there, a bit of momentum, build the hype up. That could have made all the difference. Instead, it's back down to the rock bottom here as they're being slain by the AKs, just being distributed, little bullets here and there. Flero again, armed with just the deagle. Maybe a pot shot or two if he peaks with the right timing. But his teammate moves up, not going to be lucky on that one as he gets backstabbed by Hampus. And Bleed keep trotting on to 8.
Yeah, I think this is going the way we kind of anticipated coming into this game. A couple of fleeting moments of hope, but it's Hampus with 11 kills, who tops the board. Lonks just behind him on 10. And Cypher on the 8. Jacky, unfortunately, is AFK at spawn. Hasn't bought. Don't know if it's just a legit AFK, bit of a rage quit here, or if maybe there's some nefarious disconnecting going on. Either way, the teams are playing as if this is live. So I assume that's just an AFK situation here. That's kind of the nature of these early rounds, though, isn't it? In vast open qualifiers. Yeah, this kind of stuff does happen.
Okay, it seems like it was a disconnect. I guess at this point, though, they're already just playing it out. I feel like first contact kind of already had passed before maybe they had noticed that he had DC'd. So they do let that one sail on by. But yeah, that's unlucky. Honestly, mate, there was a timeline where in my head I was thinking, you know what, yeah, maybe he has just stood up from the PC, headsets down. In this instance, you know, maybe not the jersey, maybe a tank top. He's whipped it off Vince. He's thrown it on the keyboard and he's just walked off. He's just gone.
Just asserts dominance because, you know, in every other way they have been dominated. You know, you can at least take your own initiatives and screw this, I'm out, boys.
I've had enough.
Picked up a deagle though, so he's keeping himself in with a chance at least of some more kills, perhaps. Fingers crossed. That's hard copium, isn't it? He's not getting more kills.
Oh, it's always rough. You're kind of setting yourself up for a bit of a rough ride as well, because like grand team, but they've gone for the brackets of GAT. You know, maybe they need to start shooting with the gats, need to clap back, Vince. T-side, perhaps, right? Pull out the Glock. Maybe that could be the difference maker for them. But they need a bit of a buffer if they're going to get too much done here. Rome wasn't built in a day, but any labor at this point will help. Just something, you know, a bit of roof tiling, maybe.
Or maybe it's just 7 billion IQ. You know, he didn't buy in the last round, so he can get an M4 in this one. Sure, no one else on his team has one, but it doesn't matter because he is the main character of this story.
He's the protagonist, Vince.
Exactly.
He's got the cat ears.
Bassi will appreciate that one.
Oh, yes. Bit of bedroom behavior going on here from Lonks, though. Just waiting, seeing if anyone's going to be walking on him. And you could see already from just the way Bleed approached this game from the opening moments, it was very confident but very passive. They understood how to control the pace of the game and make Grand Team feel very uncomfortable. You know, they used a lot of their utility in the early rounds, but to no real success, whereas everything Bleed has been using is quite calculated. I mean, that Molotov, maybe not as clean. If someone was playing close, would have ruined their day, but in this sort of situation, just going to buy a bit of time for the peek out on middle. Pro 100 goes for the swing with a deagle, straight to the back of the head on Cypher, who's been looking pretty crisp as well. So you shut down the entry for Bleed and leave the rest of the units funneling themselves into B.
Flero is stood there with the 5-7. He is all alone. They line up, a bit of damage inflicted, but not enough to stop the push. And the Swede will be the first one in. They're just doing their due diligence, making sure no second pesky CT is laid in the shadows. And Lox goes in for that full-on plant. So the 10-0 looking very likely here. Flick shot from Cirque will be missing, but he's able to find the sanctuary of his teammates at the back of the site. Best case scenario here maybe for Grand Team is to try and stall and stymie this rotation and then allow the bomb to do most of the work for them. But when you look at the vast amounts of cash on the team of Bleed, does it even matter, Jacky? Probably not.
At this point, they're all sipping on the rose, Vince. They are living it large. Ooh, Lonks with a flick as well. Fumbling their bag a little bit here. But the 5-7 at least recovers some damage. Like you said, though, I don't think it's really going to matter. Any debt they could deal in this one is instantly buffered out by the sheer bank that has been built up for Bleed. And we're dangerously close towards the end of the first half here as well. Almost a flawless one if they keep this trajectory up. And this is what we were saying, you know, obviously a little while ago now, but in the pre-ramble, we were talking about the fact that some of these games, specifically the first few rounds, where you've got a team that would probably be a far higher seed versus more of an unknown quantity, you're looking at those games that might be over in under 20 minutes. It seems like there's someone at my door, but that will be resolved. Ignore the alarm.
That's Grand Team, hoping that you'll join them as their 6th player, Jacky.
Can you just coach, mate? Can you let us in?
Please. Lonks he's not having it though, is he? He wants this over as fast as possible. They've had enough tech issues. They want this game done. They want round 2. Loads of nades. Merc Knight's just eating shrapnel, but Cypher finishes him off with the bullet. And just like that, Jagetti all alone. Second highest fragger on the team of the CTs. And 3v1 and a weakened Cypher against him. No plant as of yet. Does have a HE as well. Maybe a way in for a kill, but I mean, this would be a horrendous 3v1 loss if Bleed let this one slip through their fingers. Kassad would not be happy at all. So, I mean, we could be on for a clean sweep here, to be honest, Jacky. This could be a 13-0.
It feels like that's the way we're going, right? Yeah, a pistol round in the bag, this is all she wrote, I would imagine. It doesn't seem like there really is too much more room for this to build up. And Hamper shuts it down before it can even get started. So Bleed with 11. Oof. Close it down at the end of the half here. I mean, yeah, there's money to play with for the CT side, but with how the game's been going, you imagine this will just be another turn in the spin cycle, keep the washing machine going. Only good bit is to this as well, at least with all the stopping and starting that's kind of happened. For Bleed, I imagine the good bit is you've prioritized a lot of these frags onto your riflers, into your entry, the players that need to be warmed up. So the longer the tournament goes on, it's not as if they were stagnating as much. They're still going to be feeling a bit more crisp. Ooh, awkward encounter at middle. This could have actually been an opener where they had an early advantage with 2 frags onto the T side. Instead, it just turns into a barrel of problems, one after another, with just Musa and Flero remaining.
Does get the freebie kill before the smoke has a chance to fully plume. And Lonks on his life will be deemed forfeit. Cirque, though, will make amends for that very dodgy spray up middle earlier on. As you mentioned, it was a bit of an awkward one. And now Flero, last man standing. The last passage of play in our first half of the first round of the Open Qualifiers. 1,000 teams roughly signed up for this tournament. A lot of teams did get buys, to be fair. But a vast amount of teams. And Cypher should be the last to get on the scoreboard in our first half. Puts it down onto Flero. And Bleed cruise to a comfortable first half 12-0. And, I mean, honestly, it was every bit that one-sided.
Yeah, this is one of those where, you know, you can't even sort of sit there and drum it up a bit and go, hey, man, it was a little bit closer than it looked on the scoreboard. No, no, no. This was Bleed just playing their game, being able to run away with things, look very confident, look very drilled. I like the fact, at least, that there was a lot of respect shown in the rounds where it mattered, where they were feeling out their opponent, where, you know, if you give up a couple of rounds, maybe there could have been momentum. They played smart CS, they played calculated Counter-Strike, and they walk away with a basically unbeatable scoreline at this point. Now, you imagine this is just going to be a hard commit into the B rush, going straight into the awaiting arms of Cirque. He's got the util for the round, so dashes the smoke. This has already left them looking a bit sheepish, Vince. They don't like the fact of running through this and just getting their heads lopped off. So they back up, go down towards bottom banana, and look to maybe play a bit of a slower round out of this. But if the pistol goes the way of Bleed, that's the first opening game for them in the bag, and their debut game at that taken as a W.
And it would be a perfect game, realistically. A 13-0 demolishing. Sure, it's against players that are completely unknown. But Favin looking to put this one down and lay it to rest as fast as possible, executing 2 players. Musa being patient, waiting behind that smoke with the flashbang up and over. Is going to land in his eyes. The crossfire is good, and Cypher's aim is up to task. 2 kills go the way of the UK-based man. And just like that, Kargetti is last man alive. Has the bomb. Maybe can get onto this site and get it down. Goes for the fake. Tries to draw longs out to the open. But he'll be snatched away. And Bleed Esports get it done. 13-0.